Hello, everybody. Spidey here once again, coming soon podcast, coming to you from San Antonio, Texas. Of course, being joined by Chris Friedman, my man. How are you doing, bro?
Good, good. I'm good. How are you?
Man, I am great. It is Friday. Got paid today. Um, my creditors, I'm sure, are happy about that. Everything's going to them. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but it's Friday, man. I'm getting ready for the weekend. Appreciate you jumping on here, man. And I know we talked a little bit before we went live, bro, and we are going to be talking about this project that you're a writer in. Now, when it comes to yourself, I mean, being an artist. I mean, of course, you're involved with martial arts, man. But when did being an artist start for yourself?
My parents were entertainers. Like they were, you could say they were professional entertainers. They weren't famous or anything, but when they were young, they made a living doing it. This was like a long time ago. I'm 54 years old myself. I'm gonna be 55 in 2 months.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
like this was like in the probably like the 50s or 60s maybe. So like they were they were dancers and singers. They did like this show stuff, like
Yeah.
on stage, like dance and singing. My dad did that like singing comedy style that was popular back then. So I come from a family of that. So when I was a little like a kid, like I was like making my own music and stuff, and I got into the physical arts, the martial arts and stuff. And so like that's been going on forever. But I started writing. I started with the music, and then I got a little discouraged with that. And then I started writing these like martial art articles, and that led to me wanting to write a story. Like one of my favorite movies is The Warriors, like from
Oh yeah.
the so like that and like Death Wish. I like these grimy like 70s shows, so, like movies. So I had this idea in my head, like, okay, I'm gonna write some story like this. Like it's going to have some tragic character who's a villain, but you don't hate him. And there's this whole like process going on. And it took me like a decade to come up with an idea, but eventually I came across something that sparked my interest, and that led me down this road where I'm at.
Man, that's cool because pretty much that's how it happens, man. And I was gonna ask you about as far as like family being involved in entertainment because a lot of times people don't. I mean, I get people on here, and of course they're like, no, nobody's done anything, nobody does anything when it comes to art. But I mean, they just found it through music or a movie or a book, and it's just the seed has to be planted, and I'm always like curious, where when it starts because growing up, I mean, I always tell people I went to high school, elementary school, like they kind of threw us on plays. Like they were like, "Hey, Mario, you're the lead," and I was always like the kid up front and embarrassed and scarred for life, right? But it was fun. I enjoyed it. And later on, like in high school, man, a lot of my buddies, I mean, they're still artists. They're tattooists, they're musicians, they're painters. They're in theater, and I'm like, man, I always envied it because I wanted to be a part of it. I just wasn't. I didn't have any talent, bro, when it came to like music or so it's just one of those things that after a while I just turned out to be that guy that could make things happen. I was always like the middle guy. I connected this guy with this guy, and it just worked out when it came to networking. This is like back in the 80s and 90s. I had a zine, a music zine back in the 90s too. I used to do on paper format, interviewing people with via snail mail, writing letters back in the day. So it's been pretty good, man. But yeah, man, but that's cool. I mean, when it comes to your parents, being artists, I mean, not to say that you were forced upon it, but I mean, were they kind of like, hey, you know what, like we want you to do something, or we want you to be involved one way or another?
It's more like, I mean, I guess you could say almost like they had that like it was like they were like actually before hippies, but maybe like that beatnik, like we don't care attitude, like do whatever you want type thing. So it was like, I guess in that sense, it was encouraging because they weren't like discouraging me from it.
Yeah,
But in some sense, I feel like it's a curse and a blessing because I have made some money off my talent. Like, for example, I teach martial art. One of the things I do, I have a real job, but I also teach martial arts and make decent money doing it. So I do make money off that artistic aspect. When I lived in Asia for a long time. I did acting. I got paid for that. Also wasn't my full time thing, but so I made some money from it. But also, I feel like, well, okay, so I was born into a family of entertainers, and for the most part I have to have a regular job, paying the bills. It's almost like a curse in a sense because it's like, okay, if I had a different skill, like for example I was really good academically or something, I could have a really great paying job right now. So it's like to me it's like a curse and a blessing.
no, for sure, man. Because I mean, I'm people involved with martial arts. I mean, especially mixed martial arts, and a couple of times, a couple, some of the some of the instructors, the gym owners, they put down like, man, I've been doing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu 10 years. I could have been a doctor, and it's just like, but this is the path they took, and it's commitment. And I mean, now they're doing great. They're actually running their own gym, doing what they love. And it's like you said, it's a, well, for them, it's not necessarily a curse because they're doing it. But at the same time, it's like, you got to sacrifice one for the other, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's a tough road, man, no matter what. But that's pretty cool that you're actually involved in teaching, man. I was actually teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a while here in San Antonio, man. And I was a purple belt at the time. And, I was the first guy in San Antonio to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the mornings because I used to work nights. I started working nights at the post office. And, so I was 2005. I had a morning class. I had like 32 students. And, all walks of life, man, blue collar, law enforcement, it was cool. I enjoyed it, bro.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. Very cool.
And man, and of course, I mean, when it comes to you say you have a full-time job, and of course these side jobs. I mean, it's kind of like like myself. I'm employed, but at the same time, I like putting my stepping in a few side things, when it comes to film and everything else, just because I can't depend on it right now full time. When the time comes, great, but I have that safety net. I have my work, and the fact that they work with me and they're good people, man. I love that company, and I mean, I'm blessed. But a lot of people out there, I mean, they're I think that's where that term "starving artist" comes from.
Yeah.
But man, and as far as martial arts, man, I mean, what form?
Okay, so I mean, I started like I've been doing martial arts since I was like 11, basically. So like when my hometown, we had basically like two schools. There was like a karate school, which was Tang Soo Do, Korean karate, and this was early 80s. And then there was like a kung fu school a couple towns over. So I got into the karate, and I did that for like maybe 7 years or something. I liked it. And then I was into all kinds of stuff. I did Japanese jiu-jitsu. That was before the first UFC. I remember my brother was a big tough guy who's a wrestler. So when I was doing karate, like this was even before the first UFC ever. So grappling was still like a mystery, So I was doing this karate, and my brother was bigger than me, and he was a wrestler, and who's also a street fighter. He's been in tons of street fights. So we would spar, and I'd kick him a few times, and he'd grab me and tie me up. So I was like, hey man, what if this was a street fight? Like, what would happen? Like if someone tied me up like that, I'd be dead, man. So I was like, I got to learn how to grapple, So then like I got into the Japanese jiu-jitsu, and then later on I did this eclectic system where the guy was kind of like, it was a very, very early stages. Like he was learning like Sambo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and kind of mixing it all together and stuff.
Nice.
And then, but I really like, I've always liked the traditional martial arts. So the style that I wound up with and what I teach is called Shaolin Kung Fu, which is from the Shaolin Temple. You familiar with all that stuff?
Oh,
like,
yes.
So, and I lived in the village of the Shaolin Temple I lived in China 13 years, but I lived in the actual village of the Shaolin Temple for 3 years. And, before that, I had a teacher teaching the same style in Shenzhen, China, which is close to Hong Kong. So that's the style I teach. And it's really cool. It's got a lot of aspects to it. It's got like the whole mind body fitness thing. It also has like, they do Sanda, which is kickboxing with throws. And there's China, which is locks and stuff. But it's not like, in Shaolin, there are people who focus purely on like competitive fighting. Those are the Sanda guys. The Chinese kickboxing guys. So they have that aspect to it, but it's not necessarily what I'm geared to. Like I kind of do it like a mental therapy for me. It's like I relieve some anger and stress from my body, and I've been doing it forever. And that's kind of like where I'm at with it. I've done like competitions here and there when I was younger, but it's not really my cup of tea. I'm more like it's like a way of life for me type of thing. I would say.
No, for sure, man. And that's true, man, because I mean, for me, I mean, of course, when I started, I mean, the UFC was already out, but the term MMA wasn't. We used to use freestyle fighting. We used to use vale tudo. We used to use like, full contact fight. I mean, it was just, there was terms because there was, MMA in itself wasn't known. It wasn't known for us being MMA, but yeah, but we did a little bit of everything. My first instructor, Mike Rangel, man. I mean, we did everything from jiu-jitsu, Russian sambo, just using the top. I mean, he had to incorporate judo, You know, he actually came from traditional martial arts, so he used to implement a lot of weapon style fighting, and I thought it was cool at the time. I was like, man, you know what? It was one of those I wanted to learn how to fight type things for myself. And it's funny because I always tell people like, man, I learned because I used to get in fights, right? And I was like, man, I want to learn how to fight, and it kind of took me away because I was so busy learning and you know what I mean, like that. It took me away from that life, so to speak, and I just kept pursuing it and competing and doing the whole gi thing, no gi. And after, before I knew it, I was like, man, I just realized that I was in love with it, man. I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was a stress reliever. I mean, of course, a lot of the guys were still competing, doing MMA and full contact, but for myself, it's like, man, a long day of work, just showed up to the gym, put the gi on and let's go, man.
Have you heard of Shuaijiao, Chinese wrestling Shuaijiao?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, that style, that was one style I always wanted to try. And when I went to when I first lived in China, Beijing, I found a really good school. Like this guy's like world. Well, he's famous in China for that.
Yeah.
And I did that for a couple of years. I mean, I did it like I was already in my 40s, and these are like they had full-time guys there. Like they lived there and they did it like full time. And so I would do it like part-time, and I was teaching English there. So like I would just get my butt handed to me like every time I went there. But it was really interesting, really interesting, unique style. I wrote a couple cool articles on it, like for that's one of the ways I got into writing too. I started writing articles for Kung Fu Tai Chi magazine, and there's like one or two issues I wrote on that school. They had this like, it was like an army bunker in this like a little bit out part of town,
Yeah.
Like, and there was like this army bunker, and they had all these really cool like training equipment, and some of the stuff these were competitive grapplers. Shuai Jiao, I'm not sure how familiar with it is. It's like judo with no ground fighting, and they wear short sleeve jackets, and it's a bit more strength, like a lot of strength and endurance, more so than judo in my opinion. So they do a lot of this strength training stuff, and it's very fast and very aggressive and very explosive. I wasn't really that good at it. That's not my style of fighting at all. I'm like defensive, So like, but anyway, that stuff's really interesting. And they, some of the stuff they would do is really cool, man. Like, and I have pictures of it in one of my articles. Like this guy they would also do this like weird performance stuff. This guy had this giant like bamboo banner, which is like this wide, and it's like 25 feet tall. And he would, I have pictures of this. He would put it on his thumb like this, that whole thing, and he wouldn't move, and he would keep it perfectly still. I have pictures of it in my article, man. And, I seen it with my own eyes. Like he put this like 30-foot or 25-foot bamboo circular banner thing on the tip of his thumb. He did it on his chin, on his elbow.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't move. Like he just held it like this. I don't even know how it's done, man. But yeah. And one of my coaches, this guy's really cool. You can look him up. His name's Yao Hongong. He became an MMA fighter. His brother fought once in the UFC. His name was Yao Zhiquei. He fought and lost. I think he got his arm broken. He was on the Contender, also the Chinese version of Contender, that show Contender, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So Yao Hongong, he was originally a Chinese wrestler. He's one of the few guys with the background in Chinese wrestling and got into MMA, but he was already kind of a little bit old when he got started. So he never became like worldwide famous, but he had a pro, career, and his brother did pretty good. So that was an interesting. I think you might like that because you're like
yeah. Oh yeah.
And Sanda too is really cool. Have you familiar with Sanda?
I am. I mean, when it comes to traditional martial arts, man, I've never taken any. I wanted to, but I mean, I studied them as far as like what where they came from, what form. Because, and I'll say this real quick. Like in the beginning, I wanted to learn a little bit of everything, and that's kind of what attracted me to what is now mixed martial arts. Because I was like, man, I want to learn how to throw. I want to learn how to grapple. I want to learn how to box. And so, but yeah, man, I mean, I definitely looked a lot of that stuff up.
In Shaolin, they have these guys who are they call it Sanda. That's basically kickboxing. It's not really that much different. There was throws in it, but now they're kind of just gearing towards kickboxing. I think it's more popular. And those guys are they're like full-time athletes, man, fighting athletes, and they beat they full contact. They compete. Same thing with the Shuai Jiao guys. Those guys do their sport to compete. They're hardcore, man. Like it's not really my cup of tea, but I trained in it, but I wasn't like interested in competing or anything, especially I was already in my 40s. But they got hardcore fighters in China, but they're just not. Chinese culture is not really good at promoting themselves. They kind of shoot themselves in the foot a lot of times with that stuff. So they could do a lot better than they do, but their culture kind of restricts them from this and
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna say, I think it's a lot having to do with culture. They don't want to put it outside. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, you got to respect that. But yeah, man. I mean, when it comes to martial arts, when I used to study, you know, I'll say this: like when I first started training with my instructor at that time, I would go to like Aikido schools. I would go and like, I mean, mind you, like I used to wear, his team shirt or whatever. But it's like I wanted to learn other forms. I wanted to learn everything. I used to go to judo and they get mad because I couldn't, oh, that's not a lot in judo. And I go to boxing and they get mad because my stance, and I was just like, man, well, I'm not a boxer. I'm not trying to be a boxer. I just want to learn how to do combinations. I want to learn how to do, my footwork. I mean, it was things that back then I can honestly say it wasn't as accepted as it is today. Like if you're an MMA guy now and you go to a gym and you're like, hey, I'm a, mixed martial artist. I want to learn how to box. They'll work with you. They're kind of like, okay, well, yeah, man, you can come work your hands. They're not going to change your stance because they know, the boxing stance doesn't work in MMA for the most part. But at the same time, it just wasn't accepted. So I used to get turned away a lot. I used to go to, and I would tell them like, man, I want to learn. I want to learn this. And they're like, nah, man, it's just we're anti-grappling. We don't do grappling. And I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of why I want to learn it. I want to learn how to defend myself against grapplers too. Like work both ways. But yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, and of course, when it comes to writing, I'm old school, bro. Like I still write on paper. I don't know if kids nowadays don't know what that is, but is that how you do it yourself, or are you more of a tech guy?
Well, I mean, my experience, like with the writing, it started out, with the articles. I would use the computer, but I'm like two fingers like this.
That's the way I am. That's the way I am, bro. That's when I told you guys I got to log in. It takes 20 minutes because I'm doing that, bro. One button at a time. But my man, and of course, I mean, you said you've traveled a lot. So tell us, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but tell everybody, man. I mean, where was it that you were born? Where did you move to? Of course, you traveled. So if you don't mind.
I'm from Long Island. I lived in Long Island, and then I started moving out. I moved out. I lived in Brooklyn, Queens, Jersey City, Manhattan, and then I got an opportunity to travel to China for 2 weeks to do some training. I went down there. I've been fanatical about Asian culture since I was a kid, so it wasn't something new to me. So like when I went down there, I met a girl. I became friends with this girl there, and I was like, hey, I would love to live here. And she's like, oh, you could teach English, and I was like, really? So like she gave me the idea, and then when I came back, I was living in Jersey City. So I was traveling through Manhattan to get to Jersey City, and I started crying, man. Like that's how bad I missed it. So like I was like, I got to go there, man. I just got to go there. So I was living in this crummy apartment, man. Like Jersey City was rough when I was living there. It was a hardcore ghetto, man. So I was living there, and I was like making small money, but I was like, I'm gonna make this happen somehow. So I took like a course to teach English as a foreign language, and I already had a connection. I had this girl there, and then like I saved up my money, man, and I just went. Like I just took a risk, I went there, and I was going to be like a year, and then it turned into like 13 years. And
Damn.
and also that's where I wrote my novel. The novel, Mommy, I Don't Want to, which became this film. I wrote that while living in Songshan, Shaolin, the village of the Shaolin Temple, the famous Shaolin Temple, the birthplace of Asian martial arts. Yeah. I wrote that living there. So that was a very inspirational place to write a novel. And then later I turned it into a screenplay, and now it's an indie feature film. It's it's going to be out like in a couple months. Nice. So that whole experience is really cool. I got to do acting because they need a foreign face. They don't care if you have acting experience or what. If they like your face, they'll give you a job. So like when I lived in 3 cities: Beijing, Shenzhen, which is near Hong Kong, and then the village of the Shaolin Temple, which is Henan Province, Dongfeng City. So like when I was in Shenzhen, which is a really, really modern city close to Hong Kong, they have lots of acting jobs. And like I would do that maybe like once a month. I get an acting job. It'd be equivalent to making like maybe $800 a day or something like that. Okay. So like, and the biggest thing I ever did, I was thinking about this before we started to maybe mention this because I was watching one of your podcasts with the actor on it. The biggest thing I got to do was I was an extra for 8 days on this movie called True Legend. It's on Netflix. It's like kind of like a kung fu movie, True Legend. And I was an extra on that for like 8 days, and that paid pretty good. That would be like equivalent to making like $7,000 or something. You know?
Yeah, dude. Damn. That's man. That's nice. I mean, that's pretty cool, man. And that's I mean, those are kind of like the projects that I jump on now. When it comes to a background. I was talking to one of my buddies earlier, and he was all like, "Man, did you have any dialogue?" And I'm like, "Heck no, bro. Like, we ain't allowed to talk." But I said, and I've told past guests about this. It's like, I'm a sucker for silent films. I enjoy them. I watch them, and so it's like for me, it's like a silent film because we can't talk. We gotta show like we're talking and show, hey, what's going on, and so it's like we get to do that whole extra, man. And it's like it's acting for me. I mean, I don't get to speak on this yet, but I'm definitely shooting for that. I'm shooting for dialogue, so
If
we'll
you
see.
if you ever go to Asia and you get some acting gigs, the most important thing to know is how to smile, shake your head, and point. And it's always
Yeah,
the
I got
same
that.
thing.
I think I can do that right now, dude. I'm pointing. No, dude, bro, believe me, man. I mean, you're talking about getting acting gigs out there, and I'm like, dude, I would love to be able to do that. I mean, that's actually, I mean, that's actually something to look forward to, man. Because I have a buddy here that does a lot of films in Mexico, and he was like, man, like they love, you're bilingual, you can speak Spanish, they'll love you out there, man. And I'm like, damn, I gotta go to Mexico, bro. I have my passport, so I'm waiting, but if I get that opportunity, I was like, heck yeah, I'll be there.
Like it's funny, man. Like when I did those extra things, like in the morning, I felt like I was a movie star, but at the end of the day, I felt like I was the most insignificant nothing in the world, man. Like because you really like even on that film, like I did a couple commercials which were cool, man. One of them was like some of it was just like stuff for like businesses to use as a commercial, like within their self or to sell their own business to someone else. So like some of it was like that. One of them was a little tax commercial, which I got to shake someone's hand and smile, and like that was cool because like they'd play that in Shenzhen. They would play that on the subway and stuff, and I would watch it and I'd be like, "Hey, that's me." It was like 3 seconds, but I felt like a superstar. I was like, "They don't know that's me." That 3 seconds, and like, but like that movie, like that True Legend one, that was cool, man. Like we were in full outfit, man. It was like supposed to be like maybe the 1800s. We had like fake beards and hats and long coats and stuff and canes. And they picked three of us like randomly and was like, okay, go on this table. And they gave me like this prostitute was sitting on my lap, and like the star of the movie is like kind of like a kung fu beggar. He comes and steals something off the table. So like they had the cameras on us for like 30 minutes. This was a really big budget movie, man. The guy who was in the original Kung Fu, he had a little cameo in that, and like a big budget movie. So like, but then at the end they cut it out. They cut that scene out, like so it wasn't even in the movie, man. And
Bro, you see it. And it's funny you say that because it's like I told people, I said, man, I mean, like yesterday we were on set. I was on set for like almost like 9.5, 10 hours, man. And I'm like, I'll be surprised if, they get like 8 minutes out of that whole day, but it's like at the same time, like, I mean, if I come out, I'm not waiting on it, because who knows? I mean, I might not even show up or might not even show my face. And, I got paid, but it's like, I mean, that's kind of like the takeaway from doing stuff like that. Like, you don't know, indie films, of course, they need you. They need that body. They need that face on there, and you're more susceptible to get some dialogue, get some character opportunities. But for these other big projects, man, it's just background. You're just back there talking.
Did you have dialogue yesterday in that or no?
No, on that one, no. I think Sunday on the project I'll be jumping on. They were telling me I was gonna have some, so that's pretty cool. Supposed to send me that today, so I'll have to memorize it or write it on my arm. We'll see. No, I'm just joking. But that's cool, man. And you know what? I was laughing earlier when you were talking about, you feel like a like a star, being in that film. And like one day I was actually, my work, we have an inside store, right, inside the building, and they send me to Sam's like once a week or every 2 weeks. I go to Sam's and buy supplies, snacks and drinks. And I was shopping, and I was thinking like, man, like I always hear about like these actors that are like they can't even go shopping because they're so famous. And I was thinking, like, man, you know what? I should be blessed because nobody knows me. I can be out here and shopping, and you know what I mean, doing this stuff out in public. Because if you're in the public eye, like, bro, can you imagine that? I mean, it's just I can't leave the house. I can't go out to eat. I mean, paparazzi following you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just I mean, the money's there, of course, but at the same time, I think I want my freedom a little bit more. You know, it's just what that if that day that day comes and it happens, then great. But for the most part, I'm just enjoying life and enjoying these cool opportunities.
I think people, especially these days, they focus too much on the fame and not enough on the talent. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
yeah,
I've been watching all these like interviews on these like indie rappers from the '90s and stuff, and like their career was so interesting, man. Because like, yeah, they weren't like they were making some money, but like they weren't like superstars. They weren't definitely not rich,
yeah.
but like their career was so interesting and rich, and like some of their music was really good, man. You know, like and like I would take that any day over like some garbage pop stuff. You know?
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, the way it is now, everything's you know, about social media, about influencers, about how many followers you have. When it comes to a movie, to a music video, to a fight, a lot of these fights is like, well, who's more famous? Oh, okay, well, let's put those guys, as the main event, and it's just like, I mean, the world we live in now, I guess, but for the most part, like, there's a lot of good fighters, that are on the undercard and just not, they don't have that much attention. And I see it, a lot of these fighters really, they don't even want to deal with social media, man. It's just more work, they just want to train and fight. And, that's the
Are
way it
these
happens, man.
are these guys like? Is that their full time gig, or are they doing it on a side, like as a side gig, or?
Full-time gig.
Uh,
Yeah, man. And
Yeah,
so
that's got to be a really tough way to make a living, man. I mean, those guys,
or you
they're
see,
yeah, man. To be a full
yeah,
time fighter, man, is like, I saw an interview recently. I was Donna Dragon Wilson. You ever hear that guy, Donna
yeah.
Dragon Wilson?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was like, there's like different types of people. Like he's like, he's like, to be a full time fighter, you got to be crazy. You got to have
Oh
so much.
yeah, bro.
My coach Yao, man, who's a pro fighter, he's like another level, man. Like you could throw him out. He's a Chinese dude. He's small,
Yeah.
but he's cut, and his head is big, and he's got big fists, man. You could throw this guy out a speeding car, man. He'll just bounce up and be like, "Oh man, he's so tough, man." Next level, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm not that type. Like I'm fast and I have really good defense, but I'm not rugged like that, man. Like I consider myself like a dirty, even on my martial arts. Like I've been in a good amount of real fights, and like I'm like a dirty fighter, man. Like
Yeah.
those guys are just like, man, they're like freaking built like differently, man. They're just so freaking tough. You gotta admire their courage and their toughness, man.
No, no, for sure, man. And I mean, the whole thing, but like you mentioned with these fighters, these fighters doing it full time, and it's true because, I mean, a lot of them do teach. I'll take that back. They do teach, so they do have some residual income when it comes to like when they're not fighting. But I mean, for those fighters, I mean, a lot of them try to fight as much as possible, just because, I mean, they get paid what, 10,000, 15,000. Shoot, that goes towards rent, towards groceries, towards your trainer, towards, you know what I mean? Like by the time you're done paying everybody off, it's like working a full-time, a regular job, man.
And how often do these guys fight, man? Like in one year, like these days, like what would MMA, like a guy you're talking about?
For the most part, I mean, they would ideally, I would say 4 or 5 times a year.
Mhm.
But that's of course, injury free, if the fights make sense. I mean, at the when you're starting off, I mean, you pretty much fight all the time. I mean, when you start making a name, that's kind of where a lot of these guys pick and choose, because it's like, okay, well, you know what, better match up with this guy, and that's all management work. But for the most part, I would say like 4 or 5 times a year, bro.
Interesting.
And that's not, I mean, regional. I mean, shoot, man. I mean, you probably got guys that fight once a month, twice a month if the state would allow it.
It's a rough way to make a living, man. But these guys, I mean, you manage and stuff. They love what they do, or they. I mean,
Oh
how do
yeah,
they feel?
bro. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's just, I mean, right now they're doing it because they can. I mean, they want to. I mean, my thing is like with anybody, it's like, dude, I try to like promote people towards other projects. A lot of it having to do with film. I'm like, we're real, like, dude, like, let's put you in a movie, let's put you in something, to fall back on, and the day comes you can pursue something else. But for the most part, it's just this is what they enjoy and they love. So gotta go with that, bro.
Yeah.
My man, I was gonna ask you, and of course, I mean, when you talked about the well, what is now going to be a feature film, Mommy, I Don't Want To. I mean, you said it started off with your novel. You said you had done an actual, like, a theater show.
So this story, okay, so Okay. So it starts off with I wanted to write. I was writing articles professionally. I was like, having them published in traditional martial art magazines. So I was doing that, and I wanted to do something creative. I wanted to write a novel. I wanted it to take place in the '70s, and I wanted to have like a tragic hero that is, well, no, not a hero, a tragic villain that you just somehow you didn't hate, kind of like a Clockwork Orange type of Alex character, where he's a villain but you don't hate him. So I thought about this for about a decade, and I like to watch true crime. So I heard a story that sparked it. Like, okay, this is it. This is what it's going to be about. So the guy was unknown at the time. He was a criminal in the '70s. It was the Golden State Killer. It's a famous case. The guy did 50 rapes, 13 murders, and 100 burglaries, and didn't get caught for 45 years. They didn't even have him as a suspect. So he's a really clever criminal. So he was not caught when I wrote this story. So I wrote a fictional character who I thought this guy would be, and I filled in all the gaps. So it's a fictional story inspired by true events. So when I lived in China, when I lived in the Songshan Shaolin village of the Shaolin Temple, I had a lot of free time at that period of my life. So I spent it writing this novel. And so that's how I got to that point. And then I moved back to the US right about the time I finished it, and they caught the guy right at this time. So now it's like, okay, now I know who this guy is. But when I wrote the story, they still didn't know who he was. So that's how I got to writing the novel.
Damn. You see, and of course, let me ask you. I mean, the fact that you were at the Shaolin Temple, man, was it more like peaceful, or was it more like for you to write this? I mean, did you kind of have that like clear thought, clear mind, like, okay, you know what, like perfect?
Couldn't have been a better place on the planet for me to write a novel, because this is, I mean, when I was 11 years old, I was doing like karate at a karate school, local karate school. I used to watch these like 3 p.m. kung fu movies every Saturday. I'd go in my backyard, dress up in my karate uniform, and pretend I was one of those guys like in China in the movies. So like this was so inspirational. I also that time, I supported myself mostly teaching English, as a foreign language. And when I was in Songshan, they're poor village people. They don't have money for that. So my wife was a tour guide. She's Chinese. She was a tour guide taking people to this famous place. So I was basically living like with anything I wanted to do. So I was training whenever I wanted. I was living in the village outside the Shaolin Temple. My teacher has a little school there in the village there. So I'm surrounded by mountains, the birthplace of martial arts, Asian martial arts, birthplace of that, doing martial arts anytime I feel like it, and writing. It was like but I got to say the living standards there are very, very simple. We had this like kind of like this small hotel that was empty most of the time. So like every other day the electric would go out. When in the winter time the pipes would freeze, so we wouldn't shower for like 3 days. We cooked in this outside kitchen. It had walls and a ceiling, but had no heat. We had a little hot plate, and like it was like really, really hardcore living style. And that was part of the training. And the training was done outside and stuff. So like it was like these really simple, primitive living style, but like so inspirational that you just didn't care, And it was just unbelievable, man. And it came out good, in my opinion. It came out good if someone's going to spend thousands of dollars to make this into a film. I guess that speaks for itself that this was a good story. So yeah, that was the most ideal place on the planet I could have been to write a novel. I mean,
Yeah, bro. And I was gonna say to you, man, when you were saying that, for me, it makes sense because everything was simple. I mean, here, in America, bro, in the U.S., there's so many options. People are spoiled because we have so many options. It's like, I want to eat indoors, outdoors. I want to go out to eat. I mean, you got like 1,000 restaurants, and it's like, for me, it's like, I mean, I'm the guy that, I mean, whatever you make, I'm gonna eat it, bro. Like, I'm not picky. I'm not like, oh, I don't want to eat that. Like, I grew up with that, my mentality that was like, hey, if you don't want to eat it, then you're not hungry, and people might say it's child abuse now, who knows? But it's like, I mean, back then it's like, hey, that's what we have. That's what we ate, I mean, we didn't question it. We didn't say, no, we don't want to eat that. Like, I mean, we ate it, bro. And it's just like now, it's like, oh, what do you want to eat? You want this? I mean, I get it, man. But it's just like, I mean, different times, kids living now are living in, they grew up with social media, bro. Like we didn't have that, but yeah, man. But I still keep everything simple, dude. I mean, that's kind of what I want, if I had like, people always talk about winning the lottery or winning, the millions, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't want a big mansion. I would I would want property. I would want like a couple of acres just to kind of like privatize and just enjoy my, you know what I mean? Like I would want that privacy, but other than that, like I don't need a fancy car. I don't need, I'd probably buy me an old pickup truck that just keep it running. Be honest.
Yeah, man, that's nice to live that way. Especially these days, people are going crazy, man, to make
Yeah.
money and like just insane, man. My wife and I, we got a little tiny house. We're gonna be moving there in about a year. It's out in West Virginia. Like we're gonna live simple, man. I can't take this lifestyle. It's not for me, man. I've been back in the U.S. for 6 years now, and I'm like, this is insane, man. My head is spinning, man. Like we live right near D.C. now, and it's like, man, like it's too much, man.
Too peoply, so many people around, man. And of course, I mean, right now the film is in post production. So I mean, you said it's going to be ready in a few months.
Yeah, it's actually. I mean, the director, he said we work on this. Like, I saw one of your podcasts. You said like in indie films, like people have like their hands in different aspects. So
Yeah.
I didn't do any physical, like the production stuff, but I worked with the director, producer, like hand in hand throughout this whole project. So it's been going on for like almost 2 years already. Now we're just about wrapping it up. It should be out like I would guess the beginning of next year. He said the end of this year, but I'm not sure about that. So it was filmed in UK actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the producer and director, he works in Dubai and he has family in UK. So he's kind of back and forth. So when we talked about this project, I told him this is a 70s piece. And he's like, that's going to be really hard to film a low budget indie film as a 70s piece. And he said, can you make it like the 90s? I was like, no, I can't. Impossible, So we worked on it. And he said, like Dubai is too modern. It won't look realistic. He said, but UK has some old buildings and stuff that could pass as 70s. I said, okay, cool, man. Let's do that. So for like 2 years now, like the original script was like 135 pages. It would have been like a mini series, and it would have cost millions of dollars. I mean, it was like he's having Vietnam visions, and there's helicopters and stuff, and all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, that would be similar to like the Netflix Monster series they did with like Jeffrey Dahmer, except a little bit more extreme. So, I worked. He would say, cut this out. Think of it as in the budget, within reality budget. And I learned so much from this experience, man, because I learned like how does a film actually work? Like I did those little commercials and stuff, but that didn't really teach me too much. But this taught me a whole lot, man. And then when he finally got to like the casting, I had a big part in that. Who played the roles, and then he would just show me like the audition, and I would be like, this guy is for this role, this guy for this role. And then the music and stuff, I had a big part in that. Like I found guys to make like sound alike songs because I had this whole in my mind, I had this whole like, the soundtrack, like these famous 70s songs and stuff. So like, finally, he got the cast and he was like, okay, we're ready to film. And he's like, man, you should come down here. I was like, okay, let me see what I could do. So I went down there for 6 days and I was on the shoot for 6 days. And this was mind blowing, man. Cause think about this, man. I was in China writing this thing and I was saying, gonna be a movie. I just had it in my mind. I have to make this happen. And, like I struggled so hard, man, to find the right people and make this happen, man. And like to sit there and see, and one of my, I went there to be there on a specific date for a specific scene that I wanted to see. And like, it was just amazing, even though, it's a low budget film, but it's still done really well. He did a really good job. We have like 30 different locations and like 30 different actors. And, this is a low budget film. The director's like, this is impossible. Nobody could do this. I did it though, and he did a good job, and if you watch the whole film, I think if you like a good story, you're going to like this. There's some scenes, that look somewhat low budget, right? But all in all, for the money they had and what they had to do with this, the guy did a really good job, and we got some really good actors too, man, So like
that's great, bro. And that's wild because I mean, the fact that you were able to be there and actually, I don't want to say supervise, but definitely, information, letting people know as far as like what you were looking for. Man, I gotta ask you. I mean, you said the style you were trying to keep it like in the 70s. What kind of hairstyles can we see, man? Curious.
It's funny, man, because like so many things the director had to adapt to like make this work. Like I had all these ideas, and some of them got done, some of them didn't. Originally, the character was inspired by the case, but there was a composite sketch with a young guy with like long blonde hair, and that character, like the look in his face, knowing all the crimes he did, I used that composite sketch to create this fictional character called Jay. So like the guy had long hair, and I wanted the actor to have long hair, but unfortunately, he had like medium length hair, but he did kind of look like the sketch, and he did a really. This guy's a professional actor, like a full time actor. He works in Dubai. He's from like Sweden or something. So like, but he did like an amazing job, man. And he looked at the sketches and he watched, he did research and stuff, and he did a phenomenal job, man.
That's
And
awesome.
so like some of that stuff is not 100% accurate, but for the most part, we got like he did a really good job, like how to make this work. Like he got a car that like kind of fits in, two cars that kind of fit in. We don't have like 10, 70s cars in the background. We don't have a budget for that, And then like, the phone and the TV and like also the scenery there is old, like you look at a building and stuff, the background and like, it fits in. So he did a really good job, man, considering it's an indie, modest budget film, he did a really, really good job.
No, for sure, man. And that's cool because when you do a film like that, I mean, I know I've jumped on a few projects here, they're supposed to be like around like in the 80s. And of course, they look for like those older type gas stations, older type buildings. And, you just try to be as accurate as possible. But sometimes, I mean, the budget's not there. So you just kind of use what you have, and that's kind of where it's like, okay, well, who owns this vehicle? Who owns an old vehicle? Or, you know what I mean? And they just start asking and start borrowing, man. But I love it though, man. I mean, it's just the whole creativity, juices start flowing and you're like, well, let's see what we can make happen, and, I've been in some pretty cool indie projects here.
Yeah, this story, I feel like, as a writer, man, like I feel like that's one thing I will say about myself. Like I feel like I would honestly say I feel like I'm head and shoulders over most writers, man. I feel like I've got a gift. And like, this story, Asif, the director, he did a great job. He really did. So I feel like the two of us teamed up. We did a really good job. And the main actor's really good. And some of the main detective is really good actor. The girl Mouse, she's like the I guess the love interest, she was really good, man. So we got very lucky with that. And the director did a great job. But also like the story is what stands out because, well, in my mind it stands out because like in my opinion, there's so many bad movies now with huge budgets, they don't care the story anymore at all. Like, and like, I feel like, that's like got to be one of the main parts of a movie, a good story,
Yeah.
And when I wrote this story, I didn't want to make it like necessarily like there's action, but I wanted to make it like a dark psychological thriller or almost even like a drama with a psychological edge. I just didn't want him climbing in windows, raping women, and murdering people all the whole movie. Like to me, that's cheesy, man. So like I wrote it in a way that's complex, And I have another story I'm working on. Well, it's done actually, but I need to work on a little more. Which is also, I think this is my niche, man. I take like true stories and kind of fictionalize them, make them into into fiction. Yeah. So I have another story. I think you mentioned punk music before. You familiar with Lou Reed?
With who? I'm sorry.
Lou Reed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So he apparently, the way I choose these stories is something will pop into my head like, "Ooh, that's interesting," And so I did the dark psychological thriller. My next one. I wanted to do a drama. I want to try writing a drama, right? So he apparently dated a transsexual woman in the 70s named Rachel Humphrey. I don't know if you ever heard this story, but
yeah, bro. Yes.
So I thought like that would be an interesting story to write. And I looked into it and there's not a whole lot of information on that person, but it's a pretty tragic story. So I wrote a screenplay. This one's not a novel. This one's just went straight to screenplay. I wrote a screenplay about that. I kind of changed. I didn't use his name. I kind of have a fictional version of him, Lou Reed, but I have the name is Rachel. The name of the story is Rachel. And it's pretty cool because there's so little information on that person, but there's like the key points, So I just filled in all the other information with what I assume happened, And I think that would also be a really cool story, but I don't think, it's amazing like what they could do these days on a decent budget, like you could do so much. Like if you went back to the 80s or something to try to do these indie films, it'd be like impossible, right? But nowadays, like with a small budget, you can do a lot,
No, for sure, man. And you were talking about the storyline. It kind of reminded me of the like Sid and Nancy. How they did that. They did the movie. It just, I mean, he didn't. They both passed away early in life, but I mean, they still kind of like made that story, extra. They made it out there and they put it out. So, But that's cool though, man. I mean, and of course this is going to be fictional. So I mean, I mean, did you? Uh, I don't want to say get permission, but I mean, is it just based on like what you know, like you said?
You talking about the mommy I don't want, or the one that I wrote, the Rachel one, or?
Yeah, the one with Rachel.
Oh, no, because right now I'm just writing it. Like I don't have anything happening with it right now.
Okay.
So like I talked to a guy who does work like in like as a full time director. He does movies like in kind of I guess like Hollywood you could say. He said there's different ways you can do it. Like because what I try to do is like I'll just change the names, and like and some of the facts and stuff. And he said they really can't like stop you from doing that.
Right.
So with that one, my goal with that one would be I would like to sell it, man. Like I would like to just sell it, just like make some money and go do what you want with it. Like
Right.
that was different with the mommy I don't want to. Like I was involved in it.
Right.
So like,
Oh yeah.
but I would feel really great if I could like sell that, and then I could be like, okay, I'm a professional writer at that in screenplays or something. Like so that would be my goal for that one. But it's right now it's a good story, but it needs a little like fleshing out. It's kind of the character needs to be developed a little better, I feel. But it's done. I'm like kind of reading through it, changing here, changing there. But if someone was like, I'm thinking like, who knows, maybe like this little indie film comes out and maybe someone would be like, hey, you got something else? And I got to be ready to be like, yeah, I got something. Here you go.
No, yeah, and it's true because I mean, a lot of times, I mean, somebody's already got like 6, 7 stories lined up, and they get to pick them. But dude, with that being said, man, before comes out of my memory, man. But I mean, for that one, I would be curious to see if like Netflix or somebody would pick that up.
You got any connections like that?
Man, I wish, but but it's like I mean, but yeah, bro, because I mean that's something they're always doing documentaries, they're always doing like like true crime, true this is something that would fit that even though it's you would be using different names, it'd just be cool to have and for them to buy out and make, man. But man, if I run across somebody that does, I'll definitely send them your way, man.
Okay, I'll give you a little cut, man, if I make some money, man.
Yeah,
It'll be
I
worth
want
your
to be
time,
the
man.
background guy, bro. I want to be the guy. I want to be the extra. Put me in the back somewhere.
Are you familiar with this Netflix series called Monster, where they tell the true
Yeah.
stories?
Oh
So
yeah.
they just did one on this guy Ed Gein.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So the first episode, I watched that right recently. First episode, 5 minutes in, they use a Bible verse. That's in my novel. I wrote that novel 7 years ago. It's in my screenplay. It's in my movie. They use
Yeah.
the same exact Bible verse 5 minutes into that. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe that they chose the same exact Bible verse I did. And I have proof that I wrote that story at least.
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah, it's been at least 7 years I completed that novel. So I chose that Bible verse 7, 8 years ago before Netflix used it in a miniseries.
Yeah, bro. You see, and then that's the thing. I know a lot of indie, filmmakers, man. I mean, I've talked to a few. I've had a few as guests that say like, they have money, so they take what they want. I mean, they've used like indie film like posters that have already been made. They'll tweak them, they'll change them a little bit. A storyline, the same thing, and it's just they have that money, so they make things happen a lot faster. It's just I mean, and that's I'm saying that because there's a lot of filmmakers that they won't put anything out until they're done because they're like, I don't want somebody to take this idea and go with it, and I get it, but it's just I mean, you got that money machine that out there taking stories and taking whatever.
Yeah.
But man, but let me ask you, bro. I mean, all this traveling. I mean, are you gonna be set? Are you staying here in the U.S.? I mean, like you say, you guys are getting a house next year.
Yeah, we're going to be settling down in West Virginia. Right now we're in Virginia close to DC, but this lifestyle, we moved from China because my wife is Chinese. So we moved from China to here and we wound up here and it actually works out good because like we can earn some money here. So like but we don't like the lifestyle. So West Virginia is suitable for us. This one place we like. It's not like way out of nowhere. It's like a little city kind of and we we're going to settle down there eventually in the next couple of years, and that's going to be where we're at. And that's also a good place to write because we got a nice little patio back there with an amazing view. It looks over the whole town. You can see mountains in the background, the
Oh,
Ohio
nice.
River. So like, I'm hoping I'm gonna have a little more free time down there. And again, like I'm gonna be 55 in February. So I'm not that young anymore, man. I know you're also in your 50s. I heard you say that. So like, like I'm looking to slow down a little bit, man. So when we move down there, hopefully I can get a little more into the writing, man. I don't feel very inspired here, to be honest, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, I hope so, man. I mean, you're definitely gonna have the peace and tranquility to just go out there and relax the mind and let it flow. I mean, but that's cool though, man. I mean, I'm glad for you guys. The fact that you're gonna be able to do that move and continue this because, of course, as a writer, I mean, like you're saying now you're more interested in. I mean, not so much novels. I'm sure we're going to be expecting some, in the future as well. But I mean, to be able to write some stories and getting made, have them turned into film, bro. It's exciting.
Yeah, man. So yeah, Rachel is the next one, man. Like, and anybody who listens to this or anybody who wants to be involved, man, just contact me, man, because I'm starting. Like I got lucky to meet my director, producer, Asif, with this project. I got lucky, and maybe some divine intervention there, But like on the next one, right now, I'm just a guy with nothing writing a story, So start from that.
No, dude, but that's awesome, bro. And of course, I mean, martial artist, man. I mean, you are an artist. You've done pretty much everything. When it comes to what you enjoy, music. I mean, you say you're a musician as well.
I gave that up a long time ago, but I'd rather like forget that part of my life. But yeah, I was into music for a while, and I was really into it. But it was discouraging, and it didn't really materialize into anything. So
Yeah,
I'd rather just like leave that part of my life behind me. So what I did was, when I realized like nothing's happening with that, I'm going to reinvent myself and
yeah.
learn to use my creative writing skills for something else. And that's how I got into the whole article thing. And I did a lot of those articles before I wrote my novel. Like I had like probably like 40 articles published in two places. One was a magazine called Tai Chi Kung Fu, which went out of business about 5-6 years ago. They were on like you would find them in Barnes and Noble's bookstore, all those places.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
yeah, and I was doing that while I was living in China. It was really cool. It's like every month I would write a cool article, take these amazing pictures, send it to him. He'd pay me a tiny bit of money, and then I'd see it in a magazine. It was really cool. And then there was a website for Jet Li. Jet Li for a while had a website, but they took it down. And they would pay me also to write, And
Dude,
like so
okay.
those two, that was really, really cool. So now it was like I went doing the music, nothing happened. And then here like I'm getting stuff published. So that was like good for my ego.
Yeah.
And then, when I wrote the novel, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a book deal. I did get a small book deal, but the whole thing was just a mess, man. Like they messed up on the editing, and then eventually they were like, hey, man, you got to sell more books, or we're gonna like kick you out of our little company thing. But the good thing that came out of that was now I just self-published it. After that whole experience, I just put it back out again. I had a really good cover, man. Like they gave me a great cover for my
Yeah.
book, my novel, and I used that to help me get the movie project. Like so, the name and the picture caught people's attention. So
Yeah.
like that was the good thing that came out of that. And now this is amazing, like experience. Like even if I never make a single penny off this project, what an experience, man! To have my novel made into an indie movie, go to the UK and watch them film it. I mean, lifetime. That's like an experience of a lifetime. So I'm fulfilled with that, and I feel happy about that.
Yeah, for sure, bro. And that's one of the things I always tell people because I'm like, you know what, even if it's if what I'm doing now, like myself personally, if I don't become famous, I said, it'd be kind of cool. Like, I mean, you never know. Like if I end up being famous in the Philippines or somewhere for some reason, I'm like, hey, well, at least people out there know me. But it's just like, I mean, for me, it's not even about like I don't know. It's weird to say because it's not even about putting myself out there, but I truly, honestly, just want to enjoy everything I'm doing. I want to if I'm having fun and getting paid, even better. But it's like I want to be able to keep doing this and keep going as far as I can take it. I mean, if I keep getting opportunities and doing what I'm enjoying, then heck, why not? I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, I think that's so important, man. Like I feel like recently I've come to that conclusion, man. Like, like if just enjoying the process, man, is so important.
No,
Like
no, for sure, bro. I mean, you talked about as far as like these big opportunities because these are big things, bro. Like for myself, like I started helping a buddy of mine with his website, years back. It's called texasfighting.com. I still own the domain name. And, he was like, hey, you want to help me with it? And I'm like, yeah, what do you need? And he's like, man, you know how to take pictures? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, get a camera, man. Like, and so I went and spent like $2,000, right? Like I bought this Nikon, some nice lenses. And I started taking photos, bro. I started taking pictures of fights. I started, doing like the fight gear shirts. I started it was wild, bro. It was wild. Like I've had my pictures published on magazines. I've had a photo used as a cover for a book. I've had just crazy, and everybody's like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, bro, they just asked, and I'm like, yeah, like I'll sell it or I'll let you borrow it or whatever. But I've had my photos. I've had my fight gear in international magazines, bro. Like, and I'm looking at it. I still got copies, and I'm mind blown because I'm like, damn, who the hell does this? Like they're doing it for free. They're showing, I had like ring girl models that I used to use to advertise at the time, and a guy in England was all like, man, like, yeah, we do like, babe of the month if you want to. And I'm like, yeah, bro, like and so I started submitting photos, and of course they're wearing my gear on some of the photos, so I'm getting this stuff published, and I'm like, damn, like. But it's, I've accomplished a lot, bro. I've done a lot. I've been on, local publications. I was a photographer, no experience, but I loved it. I still enjoy it. And, I was covering events. I was going to the Spurs game, NBA here. I was going to hockey. I was going, people used to pay me to do cover events for a newsletter. I mean, crazy stuff, man. But it was always like side gigs. I worked at the post office at the time, so I was making pretty good money. But at the same time, I enjoyed everything else. I enjoyed being out there and doing interviews and all that. So it just makes sense. But I mean, because of that, and I'm just throwing that out there because I want to keep that energy going. I want you to you're excited about it. I'm excited that you're getting opportunities, man. But I want to keep that going and open for everybody, for both of us.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, like, what do you think, in your opinion, like, if you could trade off like being artistic and doing projects you believe in, or making a lot of money doing some film or something that you felt was trash, but you made good money, which would you, what would you go?
It's a trick question. Well, I'll say this. I mean, if it's like I'll say it now, and I mean I've told my job already, and I'm like, you know what? If I can do what I'm doing right now full time, I would. Like I would jump on projects and keep getting paid, and I'd be happy. I mean, all my bills are paid. I'm able to keep living day by day. I said I would definitely do that. But at the same, if somebody were to say, "I'll give you a million, $1 million budget, you can do all this and make all this money," but if I don't know, it's like I don't. I mean, I don't want to say I wouldn't take the money, but it's just like I would kind of ask to see if I could have a say as far as the film. But if it's just crap, then it'd be surreal because I could say, okay, I'll take the money, and then I can live off that money, invest it on other stuff that I want to do. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, man. I mean, I'd be happy doing what I'm doing now. It's like, I mean, I'm not rushing it. It's just like you said, dude, it's not even about the destination. It's about the journey. I want to enjoy the journey. I want to enjoy ups and downs and being happy and being extra happy, whatever. But it's like I'd rather to go through keep going through all that.
yeah, man. Yeah, it's tricky, man. Like, as far as like, you know, I consider martial arts art. So like, I could definitely be running a full-time school here. There's a lot of them, but like the reason I'm not doing it is because I want to kind of be like true to the art. So I'm I'm teaching mostly adults, and it's like a couple days on a weekend, and again, I'm making some income. I'm making income off it, but I'm also working like a pretty dull full-time job, and that's like kind of depressing. But at the same time, like, I chose this life, like we talked about the starving artist lifestyle. Like, I chose this, so I can't really blame anybody for it. But like, again, like, I don't know, recently, just like the last couple of weeks, I've been getting a little. I like the true crime stuff. I'm always watching that in my free time, the true crime podcast and stuff. And I wanted to change, so I just started watching these like indie musicians who've had careers, like they had professional careers, but they weren't like mainstream. And I found it so interesting, like their career is just so interesting. And like as a fan of some of these people, like I feel like even though they might not have gotten the reward like that, let's say another artist who got a major record label deal or something did, like they didn't get their personal life. They didn't get to experience that money and, the high level of fame and all the glory that comes with it. They got it on a much, much smaller scale. But still, like there are people who appreciate that, really, really appreciate that, man. And I think that's like, well, we're doing stuff like that, like it's a trade-off, but like at the same time, it's like, well, you're creating what you think. Like I don't want to write a shitty story. Like I know, like I've seen like lots of like some of these, these like places you can sell scripts. Like they want like one, like not saying there's nothing wrong with this. It's just not what I do. Like
Right.
like one location places, this many characters, like just to make a film, they're gonna figure out a way to make it low budget. But that's not what I want to do. Like I'm shooting for the stars here. Like, like that Rachel story. I mean, I don't see how that could be done on a small budget, man. Like that would be like either Netflix or like freaking Hollywood type shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to write, man. I want to write something that's gonna make someone cry or something, man. I don't want to write like something that is like, I feel like I'm a really good writer, and I want to, even if nothing happens, that's what I got to go for,
Yeah. No, yeah, man. I mean, there's a movie they made on Mark Kerr. You see that one with The Rock?
No, that sounds interesting though. There's a movie
Well,
about
you
that.
see, yeah. I mean, Mark Kerr. He, guy, mixed martial artist. I mean, fought in Japan, went through a lot of drug dependencies, man. Fought overseas, and it's like when they first started talking about that, I was like, man, I wonder how. I mean, not to say it in a bad way, but how they decided to do one on Mark Kerr. Because I mean, for me, I'm like, hell yeah, dude. I'm a diehard fan. Like I used to see the guy fight, from videos in Brazil, Vale Tudo, no horse, no horse barred. But I just thought like, man, I had to have been somebody that knew somebody that was like, man, I'm interested in this guy. Like, let's put money on this. It just makes sense. And that's kind of like the racial story. It's gonna have to be somebody like that, somebody that's like, you know what, I remember that. I was in that era. Like, dude, that's perfect. Like that makes sense. Let's fund it. And it's gonna have to be somebody. And that's what my first instinct with like Netflix. Of course, they got money, but it's like it could be like any streaming service out there that's, that would be interested.
Yeah, the tricky part is how the heck do you get it in their hands, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, bro. And you see, I will say this, man, because I do a lot of movie reviews. Because of that, I have like 8 different like film companies that send me movies. Like before they come out, they'll let me stream them, and I talk about them and promote them. Like after they give me the date, right? But those are the people that know people, and that's kind of why I'm like, bro, like we'll talk after, outside of this, of course, but. If it's those people are the ones that I have to send it to or find out like, hey, you know what, like who would I talk to about getting something done? This is I have a buddy, he's doing this, he's looking to sell, and because I mean it's gonna have to be somebody, somebody they're within that circle. They just happen to know that person that's in charge and say, well, man, we'll have to put it in front of these people. Like, yeah, they got the money.
If you or somebody wants to do that, and they do get me some kind of contract where I would sell the script, I would be willing to, cut them in on the deal to make it worth
Right.
their time. I don't think like it's cool to be, help people out and stuff, but in a situation where there's money involved, I mean, the
Yeah.
person who finds you that situation should definitely get their cut,
No,
without a
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, when I work with fighters, I mean, I get finder fees that I pay people. I'm like, hey, if you know somebody, put them my way, and I'll pay that percentage, man, and it just makes sense because it's business. But yeah, man, I mean, by all means, bro, like I'll definitely do that. So shoot,
Yeah,
we'll
that
talk.
Rachel story is really, it's a really interesting story, man, because like I don't, are you familiar with that character, Rachel Humphrey? Have you ever heard of Rachel
I've
Humphrey?
heard of that name. That's why when you said that, I was like, damn. I said, okay. Like I know, as far as the singer and all. So I'm pretty sure I've read it or heard about it somewhere.
He took Tai Chi with one of my teachers when I was in New York. And he was in the class a few times, and like, I was like, that one guy that he sang that one song, Take a Walk in the Wild Side. I didn't know who he really was other than that one song. And then
Yeah,
like when I started writing the story and looking into him, he's like, wow, this guy's like a kind of like an underground legend. I was
yeah,
like, this guy
bro.
was like in my class. I talked to him a little bit. I didn't realize like who he was and his whole history, man. But man, that dude lived a really wild life, man.
No, you see, and that's one of those things because even like a lot of these musicians, bro, a lot of them do. Brazilian jiu-jitsu. A lot of them, do MMA. They train, they don't compete, but it just makes sense because it's just like now, like one of my fighter buddies, like I tell him, I mean, he's in Cali, and I'm like, dude, like you don't have any directors, producers that are like taking classes, bro. Like you got to know somebody, and he's like, yeah, bro, there's some that make movies, they're in there, and I'm like, dude, like those are the people you got to talk to, man. Like those are the ones you got to like put it in their ear and be like, hey, you know what, like this is what I'm doing, or this is what I'm interested in, and I'll say I've told people this story, man, but back in the day, like I was teamed up with like some guys from Houston, and we would go around, sponsoring. We had a t-shirt company. They had fight gear. We sponsored an event in Austin. They went to Dallas. We went to Dallas, and we sponsored the event. For small change. It wasn't compared to what they were asking. Or we're like, dude, we can't do that. But they brought us in. And I was sitting down the whole time. They're like, "Hey, this is so and so. Hey, this is one of our big sponsors, which is us, right?" So everybody's talking to us because they think we got money. We're broke, but we're talking and we're hanging. Hey, this is Mark. Hey, how you doing? Hey, I'm greeting everybody. I'm sitting down next to this one guy. We're talking fights, and he's like, "Yeah, it's cool, man." We're the whole night we're talking, bro, in and out. I had no idea who the guy was. Months later, I'm watching TV and they're like, "Hey, so and so, owner of so and so, Mark Cuban," and I'm like, "The hell?" I was like, "Dude, I was talking to that guy. Like, I had no idea who the hell he was, bro." And it's just like one of those things where you're like, "Damn." I mean, not that I had anything to sell at the time, or but it's just like surreal because you run into people every day and you really never know, man. You put it in somebody's ear and they're like, "Bro, that's my uncle, or that's my cousin, or I know that guy," and it's like, boom, get it done.
I've noticed, like, I've known a couple people who, like, kind of like, I wouldn't say they made it big time, but you could kind of say they made it, and like both of them, like, for example, I don't know if you might remember this group. They had like a couple songs out. There was this white rap group called Third Base. Do you
Oh
remember
yeah,
these guys?
yeah,
So MC Search, the fat guy with the
yeah,
glasses,
yeah.
that dude, man, he used to work. He's from Far Rockaway, which was near my hometown, but he used to work at this deli down the block from my high school called Foodland, and he was like he had like, I think, like an independent record, the record out. This was like, I guess, the 80s. So,
Yeah.
that was like nothing back then. There was no internet and stuff. So like he was so confident, this guy. He had this 8x, like a headshot, but it was actually like a Porsche car. At the bottom it said MC Search. And he was working in a deli and he was signing autographs. I'm going to be the first white rapper, this guy. This before the Beastie Boys came out. He was saying, so this guy was working in a deli and he had so much confidence in himself. He was doing this. And then my friend Yao, the Chinese wrestler guy who became a pro fighter, he did good for himself too, man. He had, like, no formal education, dirt poor, wrestling, doing Chinese wrestling. Those guys, they live in this like dormitory. They do Chinese wrestling all day. They eat food for free, and they make like equivalent to like a couple $100 a month for spending money. That's their whole thing. And they compete, So he went from that to like being a pro fighter, like in big arenas, and like his name's Yao Hong Gong. China, he's a little known. And he's been in some movies and stuff because he's really outgoing. He's got a really outgoing personality. So like all those guys, they always seem to have that quality. Like they're very outgoing and confident. Like, and even though like he might not be the best fighter in the world, but just his personality. And the same thing with the guy Search. Like these guys are so confident. Like they made those connections.
Yeah, no, yeah, man. You see, and that's one of those things, man. Like honestly, bro, like I've known a lot of people too that have done pretty big things, and it's just like they didn't keep that going because just like with anything, it's even with these influencers, bro. They gotta keep coming up with something. They can't just live off one meme or one something and it's forever. And that's what happens. A lot of times with fighters. I mean, once the fighters stop fighting or they start losing. It's like people forget. And but I mean, for themselves, it's like, hey, dude, I was if they can say like, hey, I was a UFC champion one time, like, who's anybody to take that away from them? I mean, they accomplished it. They did that, and but the same thing with music. They released something, a movie they did. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like I do a lot of these events where these actors that were in '80s films, back then, and they haven't done anything since. I mean, most of them haven't, and it's like they're living off that, and people love it. They're still making a living.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that is the way to go, man. Right? Just milk it for whatever it is worth.
I didn't want to say that word, but yes, bro. Like they're out there milking it, man. But bro, I mean, if I was that guy, and I told people, if I'm in the movie and I'm like, hey, that's that guy that was a orderly in that one film, and I'm like, dude, who am I to say like I'm not gonna go out there, you know? Like I would love to be able to go and talk to people and hang out and just freaking spend a weekend different states all over the US, you know, just traveling. I'm like, that's should that'd be a goal, you know. I'd be doing films during the week and I'd go out there and sign autographs during the weekend, you know. Hell, why not?
Yeah, I saw that recently. They told the life story of this guy Horshack, who was like in the
Yeah.
yeah. So that guy, like, they made it sound so tragic, but when I heard his stories, like, that doesn't sound tragic to me, man. Like, okay, he had that lead role in that giant TV show in the early '70s, and then he didn't have any acting gigs, so he went back to theater. Okay, cool, man. He already is famous. He already made a lot of money, and then in the end of his life, he was teaching acting. So how is that bad? Like, you know, and then
No,
he
yeah, yeah, bro. I mean, it's just like a fighter, bro. I mean, you're a fighter, you're a competitor. You know, they're teaching. I mean, who's to say? A lot of my buddies, I mean, the people that I started off with when they were amateur fighters, a lot of them have businesses now, and it's like, dude, for me, they're winning at life. You know, that's what it's about, man. I mean, they've accomplished so much. It's like, dude, I mean, they can go on to something else. I mean, they're teaching now, but who knows? You know, they can get into film, they can get into writing, they can get into, I mean, they're artists, you know, first and foremost, man. So you got to let those creative juices flow, come out of somewhere, you know, somehow.
Are those guys teaching for a living, or are they doing just some other job completely, like those ex fighters you're talking about?
No, they, I mean, they run their business. They have their own businesses. They have their instructors. They teach. You know, they still compete in jujitsu. They don't do a lot of MMA for the most part, but I mean, they're still building that brand. You know, they're living off that brand and doing pretty well. So good for them, man.
So running schools, that's their business, running schools. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, that's
Just
cool. Yeah,
having academies and you know making sure they're staying going, keep going.
yeah. My friend Yao, he had the one who I talked about had originally was a Chinese wrestler. He ran a really successful. He had like two huge MMA schools in Beijing, but recently they've been closing down. I think I don't know why. Maybe like there's just too much competition and this and that. And he does have connections in like the movie business in China, but
Yeah.
so he's done some acting. But honestly speaking, he's not the most handsome looking guy. Like if he had better features, he
Yeah.
probably would be like a leading guy right now. So like I think that's what's holding him back from becoming like a
Yeah,
main acting
bro.
guy.
And then I was thinking about that the other day too, because I mean, every time I jump on a project, like I know for the most part, it's like whoever's available, and they're like, oh, well, this guy is the only one, or, you know, let's pick this guy, you know. But for the most part, it's like I know there's opportunities out there. I know there's characters out there that I can't play. They look at me and they're like, man, we need somebody that's 6'2" and blonde and blue eyes, and I don't fit that, right? But for the most part, I'm like, dude, there's actors out there that are like they don't look like anybody else. Like you know, I mean, like in the Latino culture, and I'm thinking, okay, you know, Mario Leguzano. I mean, one of them. There's a bunch of them out there, and it's like they. I don't know. It's like I'm to myself. I'm thinking, okay, you know what? Like I can be one of that guy. I can be one of those guys where it's like I don't look like anybody else. I'm, you know, people are like, oh yeah, well that's so and so. Like, you know what I mean? Like every other actor, it's like they always live off that hype to where they're like, oh, well that's like the Tom Cruise and that's the Brad Pitt and that's, you know, I mean those guys have it made and it's just, but yeah, man, like I'd be okay with, you know, anything, bro. Like I said, I mean not because I'm like scrapping or I want scraps, but it's like if whatever was served to me and that's what fit, then that's it. You know, I'd be happy just doing behind the scenes shots. I'd be happy with just help, you know, holding a boomstick, you know, whatever life gives me, man. But until then, I'm gonna be, you know, jumping on as an actor, bro. So that's good.
Yeah, you know this movie project. When I was down there for 6 days, the main actor, his name was Peter, right? And he's playing the main role, Jay, which is inspired by the real person's name is Joseph James D'Angelo. He's the he was originally called the East Area Rapist, and he was known as the Golden State Killer. He was the first guy they ever used the DNA in a family database to figure out who his family was to catch this guy. You know, now they use it a lot. He was the first guy they ever used that.
Oh
So
man,
this guy, the guy who's playing Jay, my fictional version of that guy, he had this. There was a scene. Actually, I didn't write this scene. There's like one or two scenes in this film that I didn't write. I'm not sure who wrote it, the director or he had somebody else. But there was this one scene where this girl is being harassed by this kind of these hooligans, and he's walking by and they're like, he's like, help me, help. She's like, help me, help me. And he keeps walking and then he turns around and goes, hey. And then he shows a gun and they run away. So blah, blah, blah. So, the actor, he's like, hey man, why don't you be one of the thugs? I was like, yeah, man, cool. I'll do that. Like I didn't even have this like in my mind. Cause when I was younger, yeah, I wanted to be like a lead guy. I wanted to be like but now like, and this, I had that problem in China too. When I started like at the end, when I was about to move out of Shenzhen where they had the acting gigs, I was already I was like in my mid 40s. So like, and I was like, I have a young face. So I was like, I'm not young. I can't play a young guy. I don't really have an older guy's face, but I am old. My hair's turning gray and stuff. So like, I'm like, where do I fit in on this? Like I kind of felt like I don't want to play myself out. I'm just going to quit while I'm ahead,
Yeah, man, and then that's what it's about. I mean, because yesterday working on that project, I mean, we had some young guys there, and I'm thinking, okay, well, you know what, they're gonna use the younger guys. I mean, they were I can say this, they were handsome, they were charming, and I'm like, you know what, like, but they picked me for the most part in some of the shots, and I'm thinking, okay, well, shoot, I mean, I got to fit something. So I mean, and everybody got in. I mean, of course, I'm not saying they just picked me, but I mean, it's just like not. They can't use the same person in every scene. So it's like, okay, well, we got these guys too. Like, hey, let's put them in the bag. Let's do this. Let's have them over here doing, whatnot. But yeah, man, it's just, I mean, I'm getting up there too, bro. Like I'm 51. I'm barely living life. My kids they're older, they're on their own, and now it's like, okay, well, let me see what I can jump into. Let me see what I can do. I mean, like I said, if it wasn't for my work, allowing me to miss work, I wouldn't be jumping on projects. So I mean, I'm grateful. I'm glad.
The director for the film I did, he wants to do a film in the U.S. next, and this guy's really good at using a low budget to make a decent film. So maybe we can all collab on this next Rachel project if we can get some funds together.
Let's do it, bro. And I was gonna say too, because there's a lot of. I mean, I'm sure when it comes to New York, New Jersey, there's a lot of music, underground, dude. I mean, CBGB, you got that going on the other side, and I mean, here in San Antonio, I mean, we have our own. There's a lot of underground bands, punk rock that came out of here, and it's just, there's a lot of history. So yeah, man. I mean, I don't see why not, bro. Definitely see what we can collab in and get going.
Yeah, that Rachel project, we've already talked about it, but like. What he did a really amazing job with the budget he had for this film, The Mommy I Don't Want To, which is really difficult. The next one's even more difficult because there's like a tour bus and it's also like 70. So, and there's like shows and stuff, I know like they could use CGI. I mean, not CGI, AI these days and stuff, but like, I'm still thinking this one's going to need like somewhat serious budget, but yeah, so he's already talking about coming to the US. He wants to start maybe doing a little short film first just to get his feet wet,
Yeah.
And then maybe this guy's a doer, man. I met a lot of people along the way trying to make this project work. A lot of people, a couple people were interested in this already. And they have the dream, but they don't have the like work ethic and like they can't like I haven't like made it big time, but I've made my dreams come true. Like I wanted to be in Asia and I went to Asia, like I wanted to try acting. I got a chance to do that. I wanted to write. I got articles published. I wanted to make this movie. These are not easy things to accomplish, right? So like, this director, like when I met him, he's not about talking all this nonsense. He's about doing it. And we made this work, we made this happen, man. So like, and he wants to do a film in the US and he already's proven to me that this guy can make things happen, So like, so like that next one he wants to do in the US, I have some faith in him, man, because I met people who talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. They can't make anything happen, man, and I have to cut them off, When I first came here, like there was a guy who wanted to open a martial arts school for me. Didn't happen. I had to branch out and do it myself, man,
Yeah.
And the same thing with this film thing. A lot of people talking this, talking that. We're going to make this happen.
Yeah, man. It's a lot of hype. It's a lot of hype guys, dude. And, I on those, I take it for what it is because, I mean, there's a lot of people that, oh, man, I want to do this. And it just motivates me. But at the same time, I keep going, like I don't stop, man. Like I'm like, dude, if I want to do this, like I'm gonna do it. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I've accomplished a lot. It's not big stuff to where I can live off royalties or anything, but it's like I have accomplished a lot in life, and I'm not done yet.
Yeah, the MMA business sounds really cool, man.
Yeah, bro, I love it, dude. I mean, the fact that it is a growing sport and it's still going, and it's just like, you know what? I mean, I enjoy watching it. I enjoy being involved in it. I was real big here locally years ago, man, when we had that website TexasFighting.com. But I always tell people I was the go-to guy, man. Like a lot of people, here, I was like a local go-to guy, man. Like everybody came to me because I make things happen. I put the right people. Like I said, I was the middle guy. That's kind of like what I find my. That's what I found out I was good at. I was like I would meet so many people on this side and on this side that one guy'd be like, "Oh man, I'm doing this, but I need this," and I'm like, "Dude, I know somebody." Put them together, boom, they make it happen. Hey, I know I need somebody, and I will put them together, and you know what I mean. Like I created a lot, and whether or not people give me credit for it, I know what I've done, and it's just like that's what I'm good at. And this whole film thing, like I love it, dude, because it's like if I can make something happen, then even better. It just keeps growing. Like I had my guest the other day, with Zach, or even past guests, dude. Like I always tell them, I'm grateful that they're doing this. I'm grateful that you're doing this because it's like it's going to create opportunities for people like myself that want to be involved in it. It's like the fight game. I mean, the more promoters that come out and put fights on, it's like, well, that's good because there's like 100 fighters that can't get a fight because the fight cards get booked, and it's like they want to compete, and I'm like, dude, I'll promote it. I'll keep going.
Yeah, that's really cool, man.
Bro, dude. Well, I do appreciate you jumping on here, man. I mean, we are going to be in touch, bro. We are going to talk more outside of this, and I thank you, man. I mean, is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up, bro?
If you listen to this episode and you want to check out the film, just follow me. Like it'll be out. The director said it'll be out at the end of this year, but I'm thinking probably not. Probably like, and in the U.S., I'm not really sure. I'm thinking like sometime the beginning of next year. Also, my novel is out. It's on an audiobook too. It's called "Mommy, I Don't Want to" by Chris Friedman. That has a lot of scenes that aren't in the movie. Psychological thriller inspired by true events. And the next story, which is already done, but I'm still working on it, is Rachel. It's a drama and also inspired by true events about a transgender woman in the 70s who dated a rock star. And it's a drama. It's a sad drama. And yeah, those are the projects I'm working on.
Sweet, brother. Well, dude, like I said, I am going to be in touch, man. I do appreciate you jumping on here and sharing what you have. We'll definitely take this for a spin, maybe come the new year, early in the year, but I'll bring you back. But don't hang up yet, bro. Everybody out there, of course, once again, Spider here, Coming Soon Podcast. As always, till next time.